Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now April 29th of 2022, and we are just days away from brand new footage debuting for the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show that's going to really build up the hype for the franchise, and of course for this specific story that is all set and ready to debut on May 27th. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, we are currently in a very exciting time for Star Wars, given that there is a lot of things happening at the same exact time between George, John, and Dave, and exactly what they are trying to achieve by essentially combining both Star Wars Legends and the already existing Disney canon material, and exactly how that's really going to all come into fruition by giving us a lot of original stories at hand. Now, given that we have a lot of things happening with shows like The Mandalorian Season 3 and 4, the Ahsoka series, and more to come as well, Celebration this year is going to be a big one, as well as next year, which by the way is described to be even bigger, because basically this year's Star Wars Celebration event is just a little tease of what's to come for the Star Wars roadmap. The real deal is going to be Star Wars Celebration after this one, so keep your eyes open for that as well. Now, the problem with, of course, of what's going on with Lucasfilm right now has a lot to do with actor Pedro Pascal. Now, we've been talking about what's been going on for a number of weeks now behind the scenes involving the Bo-Katan series that's going to feature Bo-Katan and Tara Vizsla in flashback form. We also know that, of course, a lot of things are happening with Pedro Pascal and his view of the Disney higher-ups, and he's giving them an ultimatum that if things don't go his way in The Mandalorian Season 4, that he's going to be walking away from the entirety of the franchise, and that's it. He wants more face time. He's viewing basically how Boba Fett was treated in his show and how Master Chief was treated in his show. He wants a lot of face time with no helmet on. So with that being said, however, alright, this is where it begins to really escalate to a different level now. Of course, with Disney and Lucasfilm now working on their new Star Wars projects like Star Wars Ahsoka and Mando Season 4, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are getting ready to make some major announcements at this year's and next year's Star Wars Celebration event. Now, it's described that currently, however, tons of drama has been happening behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm between actor Pedro Pascal and that Disney higher-ups. In a recent interview, Pedro Pascal was questioned about his latest comedy film, where eventually they got on the subject about his thoughts of losing his co-star Gina Carano as Cara Dune from Mandalorian Season 2. Now, Pedro went on to state, well, Gina got what she had coming, and she should have expected to get fired for what she was putting on social media sites such as Twitter. I mean, listen, her character needed work. Her character wasn't the best written character, really, and needed lots of improvement, but we got what we got, and I had to work with who I was working with at the time. I myself even warned Gina Carano that she had better stop posting her posts on social media, or else she's going to get herself fired, and she didn't even listen to me, which I felt to be very annoying. She didn't listen to some of her other co-workers as well. To me, Gina was never an ignorant person, of course, but she was very naive, who didn't really care about us actors, like myself on set, and only cared about herself many times. So, let me just stop right here for 1 second. Now, basically what Pedro is saying here is that he obviously was doing something very similar, to posting, offensive things, in a sense, on social media. But what Gina Carano did, in my point of view, really wasn't anything wrong at the end of the day. It wasn't really all that bad at all. I think that things were really thrown out of proportion, and she was making an example, something around those lines. Meanwhile, Pedro, if you guys go ahead and look at his tweet, I'm not going to say it specifically because it is quite detailed, but he was literally, marking a group of people as another group of people, let's just say that. And no problems arise from him. No problems came to him at all whatsoever. Nothing happened with Pedro Pascal, which really confused me as well. But Pedro Pascal, obviously, he's been stirring up a lot of drama with Lucasfilm. He's been creating a lot of problems between Favreau and Filoni, and you know, their take on the Star Wars universe and the Bo-Katan TV show and how that's becoming a problem as well. Obviously, Pedro has a problem with Gina Carano, and we're going to get into this more in just a couple of seconds. So, moving on from that, alright, he goes on to say that one thing that comes to mind is the creatives have wanted Gina Carano to change her image, such as her hair and weight, and she refused for season 1. I think that's where it all really began, when she refused to change her image for the character. But I can confirm that she was at many times very hard at work with, of course, and was very incompetent for some of the crucial scenes that we had to film. I mean, she's got to know that this is Star Wars and there is no playing around when it comes to this franchise and its fans. You need to be playing around when it comes to, of course, this franchise overall, and you cannot do that. I know that John and Dave loved her and they still talk to her, and that there are conversations flowing about her involvement with the franchise, only kept everybody on edge on whether or not her actions was going to delay production of The Mandalorian. As an actor, you need to stay focused, and her negativity many times would distract you from focusing on the lines that you needed to put out and the moves that you had to make. So, I made it very clear to John and Dave that it was difficult working with her, and they didn't seem to really do anything about it. All of which, of course, always confused me. I mean, when I look at this character is very insignificant and never really made much sense for the story, which is about Din Djarin and Grogu on their adventures. Cara Dune was a failed attempt, sadly, to create an original character based on an actress such as Gina Carano, which I always thought was absurd. So, here's the last thing, alright, that really kind of stands out more of what Pedro says, that I find to be kind of really moving things way too far, is that he basically labels Cara Dune as a very insignificant, you know, character that makes no sense at all. He's got to remember that you can't really say things like this, even though maybe a lot of fans feel that way. There are a lot of fans as well that actually really enjoyed the character deeply. A lot of young women like the character deeply. And here you have Pedro Pascal saying that the character was very insignificant, didn't make much sense, and how it was a failed attempt at an original character. Again, it's all about PR, it's about promoting an actual franchise, and you don't necessarily want to drive fans away at the same exact time as well. I'm not saying that you're not supposed to say this or that, but it's a formality, you know, when you're involved in these interviews and when you're involved in answering questions about a franchise, you've got to really kind of stay a little bit neutral when it comes to being an actor, right? We've seen this numerous times. We've seen this with Daisy Ridley. We've seen this with Mark Hamill, and he stepped out of the line and got in trouble, and that's exactly why he reverted his comments about The Last Jedi. Simply put, you know, that's why at many times, I will be honest, the interviews from a lot of actors and actresses can, at many times, not all times, be very flat and boring, where they kind of make these promises and they don't really kind of rise out to be like that. Very similar to how Robert Rodriguez, alright, said that for his episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, it's going to be all killer, no filler. That's what he said. In fact, it was more so all filler, no killer in his episodes for the most part. That's just my take on things, but let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below, because it's a very interesting development that Pedro Pascal has a lot of problems with the character of Cara Dune and how he kept on telling Gina Carano to do such things, you know, and that actually created a lot of drama on set for Mando Season 2. So overall, guys, you know, drop a comment below. Let me know about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.